Warning, what you are about to hear is two guys talking completely unfiltered.
Cut. What are you doing? We don't do disclaimers. The show's called Totally Unprofessional for a reason.
I'll see what you did. You're wasting our intro time.
Yeah. Start the show.
All right, welcome back. Episode
25.
25. Had a weekend of sports. We had a WWE pay-per-view yesterday.
Yep. Battleground.
We had
WWE
Raw tonight.
Yep.
Was that okay?
Yep.
First Raw SmackDown split.
Yep. First Raw exclusive.
Yesterday was their last combined pay-per-view. Was it a pay-per-view?
Yes. Well, It's considered a pay-per-view. It's on the network, and you can still order it through the pay-per-view provider.
Okay, so when I called DirecTV today, they were trying to sell me all kinds of other BS. Mm-hmm. So I need to know exactly what you have so that I can get it.
What you need is the network.
And what I also need to know is, will there be late 80s and 90s wrestling available to
on
me?
the network?
Yeah. Okay. So
$10 a month, dude. It gets you everything. When we're done here today, I'll show you what it is.
We're going to go right on there. Yeah. We're going to add this to this package because I'm going to give up some of my other pay-per-views.
Well, here's the thing. Like, it's not, the network is not through your cable or satellite provider.
Oh, who's it through?
It's through, you can do it through a tablet, through your phone, through your computer, or if you have an Xbox One or PlayStation.
Try justifying that one to the wife. Can't hide that.
Put it on the iPad. It's $10 a month.
I don't have an iPad. The kids have an iPad.
Well, now Dad needs to borrow the iPad.
Dad needs to buy an iPad is what he
And as promised, although there were some scheduling conflicts Friday, Gio's back. It's wrestling, so Gio's back. Welcome back, Gio.
Thank you for having me.
And I explained that it was a good thing he was here because we used about every bit of current wrestling I had on Friday.
I don't know if you've listened to Friday's episode yet.
I haven't had a chance.
So it's an hour and a half. We ran a little bit longer. Yeah, we ran a little bit longer.
Super size.
And so we went over the draft, and I covered some. He brushed up on the draft, so he had some info. Yeah. And then we went back and kind of went into some detail on some stuff. So that way, as we said, to get him up to speed on some of the current products. So that was definitely some extended time. And if we go longer today, we can because we're the boss.
Yeah.
So. And I don't work tomorrow.
Me neither.
Oh, see, they're gonna start talking about not working and forget that I get up early tomorrow.
This guy. Oh, that's just a sign of old age. I'll make sure that Christina puts the poly grip next to the bed.
Yeah. Well, Christina's not here, so.
Oh, that's right.
I got.
Hey, so how do you dress yourself?
Actually, she laid everything out for a week, so I'm.
It says
fine.
Friday, Thursday, all the way through.
Yeah. Peyton Manning.
Completely cleared of PEDs.
Cleared of PD.
After I don't know what the name. I don't know how to pronounce the name of that thing. But yeah, they were saying that during his neck surgery that he used performance-enhancing drugs, but he was officially cleared of that today.
Yep. Griffey's speech. Hall of Fame induction. Did you listen to it?
I only heard a little bit of it.
You need to listen to it. It is a very good speech. He is definitely well versed, educated man. You can tell, and he knows how to talk.
I told you, bro. You're over here shitting on him.
I didn't shit on him. I merely stated
he's an asshole.
I met him once.
He's an asshole.
He put out a terrible persona. And a guy that I went to the Air Force with knew him. I don't want to say
we already went over this, and we don't got to relive your sour moment.
Man, it's just,
sour grapes is what you got here.
This
guy met Ken Griffey and Randy Johnson, had a sour moment with Griffey, and now he shits on him for the rest of his life after one meeting.
Well, isn't that how it goes, though?
Yeah.
You don't ever want to meet your heroes, isn't that
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't
well, to be fair, he wasn't my hero, but we had this discussion at work today. Yeah. Everybody agrees he's probably the greatest hitter of all time. And does he not have those injury problems in the end? He's probably the
Would you say he's the greatest natural baseball player?
Yes. I would say natural or roided. I wouldn't say...
No, I mean natural as in, like, when you look at LeBron James, you say best God-gifted athlete to ever play the game.
Baseball player.
No. Listen. To play the game of basketball with LeBron James, right? Because he's a physical freak. We've talked about that many times on this show. Do you feel that way when you look at Ken Griffey and the way that baseball was from his dad to him, and you know what I mean?
Well, we talked about him being pedigreed, so it's a different story with him. I don't think LeBron James' father was a basketball player. This was different with Griffey. His dad was.
But that's what I mean, like just being naturally good.
I would say he was probably one of the better athletes in the baseball. I don't know. You don't even got to say modern baseball.
Just baseball.
Period. And the reason I say one of is because I still believe that Curt Schilling was, even though he was just a pitcher, I believe he was one of the other ones.
Part of the Red Sox championship team in 2004. The Bloody Sock, if anybody remember. Check out 4 Days in October on ESPN's 30 for 30.
Kurt Schilling, I think, is one who doesn't get enough credit just because he was just a pitcher. Kurt, I'm an LA Dodger fan, but Kurt Gibson was another one.
Oh, the old arm pump.
The old arm pump, 88 World Series.
Yep.
But, definitely one of the...
Okay, so to bring this back around to my Red Sox, they asked Mike Piazza and Ken Griffey if David Ortiz is Hall of Fame worthy. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
And Griffey's response was absolutely. There was never a doubt.
I don't think there will be with that guy. I think he's first ballot.
Well, you know what the tainted mark on him is, right?
No, what is it?
So in 2003, Major League Baseball did quote-unquote random steroid testing. And they were supposed to keep everything personal to the vest. Mm-hmm. The results were not going to be leaked. They weren't going to penalize anybody. They were just trying to get a gauge on how many people were actually on the juice, right?
Yeah.
Well, allegedly, although since that time, David Ortiz has never failed a test. And he's been tested just as much, if not more, than anybody else.
Anybody else, yeah.
Has never failed a test. Somebody leaked, not the report with the results, but just threw his name out there and said that he failed. No other names were leaked. His name was never confirmed. Major League Baseball would never come out and say, oh, yeah, no, he did fail the test. Like, they said, hey, we didn't do that. We told you we were going to keep the results to ourselves, that we were not going to allow that to be gone. Like, that's what it is. That's the one thing that is tainted to him. Sean Shaughnessy, who is a writer for, I believe it's the Boston Globe, and he's been on ESPN before as well, straight up said, I wouldn't vote for David Ortiz.
I hope he doesn't get hosed. He could get hosed first ballot. I don't think he goes past the second.
I just don't think you can deny him.
I don't. He's one of those guys that's just been dynamic.
3 World Series.
Especially through his prime. Mm-hmm. You can't really gauge him on the back half because he's just a DH now.
And let's be honest, he's 40 years old in the middle of the MVP race.
Yeah. I mean, so you're talking about a guy who in his prime, he played the field. He was a Golden Glove. He did the things that
that's the other thing.
Oh, jeez.
He only has 262 starts at first base.
Does it matter?
In my opinion, no. You look at Edgar Martinez, who before David Ortiz for the Seattle Mariners, tying that back to Griffey, they played together, is considered the best designated hitter of all time until Ortiz walks out. He's definitely the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So, no, designated hitter, that's the rules of baseball.
Yeah.
That's not on, you can't this is what pisses me off about writers being the ones that get to vote. We talked about this a little bit on Friday. You don't fucking play the game.
Yeah.
You don't get to say, hey, these guys, because of what we saw, this guy's worthy, this guy's not.
Yeah. Because
I guarantee you that if you took the vote amongst their peers, a lot of the guys that are on the outside looking in would be in. You know? I mean, that to me, I just don't see how it's very fair that Baseball's Writers Association, like, come up with a Hall of Fame committee. The people that are deemed worthy.
You know, I like the way they do the Heisman vote in college football. You know, they give all the old Heisman winners a vote. You know?
Yeah, like to me that makes sense.
That's about as legit as a vote as you can get. I mean, yes, writers do have an impact in it, but if the players...
I think if you make a committee like that, you allow like a writer or two on that committee, but them as a whole... No, I'm sorry. I disagree with that. They cannot, because you're going to put whatever you need to put out in your newspaper, on your website, audio bite, whatever you need to do to attract people.
Yeah.
And if anybody that's in media knows, you don't always put what you feel into a story. You give your best.
Yeah.
But it ain't always your opinion that gets put in that story.
Yeah, for sure.
So I disagree with that.
Other football stuff?
Jordy Nelson, still on the PUP list. Somehow Julian Edelman is on the PUP list. Danny Amendola.
JJ Watt.
Well, back surgery. That's why he's on the PUP list.
But he's on.
Nelson's coming off the ACL tear. That's why he's on. Greg Jennings, and who was the guy from Arizona? Was it Darnell Dockett?
Yes.
That decided to call it a career today.
Josh Gordon reinstated.
He faces 4 years. Four games
suspension.
But he does get to participate in all meetings, all activities, and all preseason games.
How does that crap work? Here, you're gonna be able
did you hear the news about Aldon Smith? The
speculation, because they still haven't proven exactly what happened there.
Okay, do you know what was said in the audio?
Yes, I do. But again,
it's hard.
It's hard to say.
I'm a Raider fan, and it's hard for me to swallow this because he's done well, benefited well in that defense.
He has, but the two sides of this. One, people could be trying to screw him. It's totally possible. But two, I'm sorry, Alden. You've proven you're a dumb shit in the past. Yeah. They're more likely to err on the side that you are doing that shit.
Yep.
You know,
considering the audio piece says it's not like I'm saying I'm Alden Smith. You fuckhead.
Somebody just needs to remind this guy how much money he's making and could potentially make because he's still young. He's got a big contract here in the next year. I don't remember.
He's got a 2-year deal with us.
He's got a big contract coming if he can just keep his ass out of trouble. Yeah. You know? So, Alden, you're listening. Hey, pull your head out of your ass, man. Right. I'd love to be playing defensive end for the Raiders, you know? I mean, we're not going to win many games, but still, you know?
Why
not? My boys, they released Taylor Mays.
That's right, I saw that.
They did release him. He's going to start with a 4-game suspension for substance abuse anyways.
What was it? But, was it weed?
I don't remember what it was. It was probably weed. He had issues at USC way before he came out. That guy, for being the physical freak that he was coming out of USC, really hasn't been able to find somewhere steady. He played a linebacker safety hybrid for Cincinnati and then went back and forth to different places and then wound up back in Cincinnati, and then they ended up letting him go because they've got they've got a young safety and a young linebacker that could totally fill the spot that he was, so they'll be okay. But a guy highly heralded out of college, USC, and just didn't pan out, never panned out. You know, I don't know if anybody will pick him up because he is suspended, but we'll see. But for football, that's all. PGA Championship is this week, starts Thursday. I forgot, I got to check on what course that's at. They're right out of the gate. Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson are early favorites. Those two have been playing the hottest the last couple of weeks, so that should be a very good tournament. I'll have some more details on that on Friday when we pod again. But today we were going to cover a lot of wrestling. Apparently there was a lot going on, you said, right?
Yes, some big things happened tonight.
So where are we going to start?
We'll start with last night, with the pay-per-view, with the Battleground pay-per-view.
So Battleground pay-per-view, there was a match.
Well, there were several matches.
Wasn't the championship being wrestled for again last night?
Yes,
it was a rematch,
we'll
right?
No, we'll go over all that.
Okay. Well, we'll let you boys start this out then.
So the Battleground pay-per-view, as you said, is the last combined pay-per-view until you have like another big one, like as in SummerSlam, WrestleMania, something like that. So as far as that goes, there was some highlights, some great highlights, and some stuff that kind of left you as like, I don't know how this is going to go. So the main event was supposed to be the triple threat match, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, for the WWE title. And surprisingly enough, Dean Ambrose actually walked away with the WWE title. Many people thought 2-on-1, 2 Raw guys, a SmackDown guy, that title's going to Raw and SmackDown will figure it out. They let him go ahead and get it. If you haven't seen Battleground, spoiler alert to the finish, they set it up where Roman Reigns took out Seth Rollins, and then Dean Ambrose took out Roman Reigns, and Roman Reigns had to eat the pin. Which, to me, in my opinion, that's a shot, the WWE taking a shot at Roman Reigns for the suspension, going, you're the one getting pinned, buddy. Yeah. You're the one going down.
That's exactly what that was.
I mean, to me, that's pretty obvious. Yeah. Roman Reigns came back with a new thick beard.
Did he?
He's a lot, right now, as of yesterday and tonight, they're letting him play like this mysterious, like...
He's going for Aquaman.
That's what it looks like. Aquaman. That's what it looks like.
I'm pretty sure he saw the Justice League trailer this weekend at Comic-Con, and he's like, you know what? I want to be Aquaman.
Right.
Because that's what he looks like.
I had read a report on Friday that said he was going to be their GOAT for a little bit.
It definitely looks that way, especially after tonight.
The writers were going to set him up to be a GOAT for a little bit to play out the last bit of publicity he's got pulling right now.
Yeah, they've taken a lot of, not cheap shots, I would say, because he kind of deserved it, but... They're taking a lot of shots at him, like on screen, and that's very rare. Like, you know, when somebody gets suspended, they don't mention that person. It's like they don't exist for that month. But with him, they've just been talking about him, how he's like a failure, and he's let everybody down, and you know, and that's the thing is, I feel like there's one or two things they could be doing. They could be trying to garner sympathy for him, which I think a part of them they're trying to do that to see if people are going to react. And then the second part is just straight up to drag him through the mud a little bit. You know, like, I forgot, Triple H always used to say that Vince McMahon would tell him that you're going to have to take chicken shit and make it into chicken salad. Yeah. And I think that's what they're going to eventually, I'm hoping that's what they're going to eventually make Roman do, because I think it would be great for his character. He would get a little bit more color to his character,
right?
And it would be more interesting to see him, fighting for really his job because he fucked up.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. It wasn't interesting before the way they were pushing him because it wasn't organic. There was nothing organic about it. Everything was forced. And with this, at least now, there's something interesting about his character. Even tonight, I noticed something very different about him, a swag about him. And it's almost a defense mechanism, I would say. But it looked good on him because now I saw more passion in him. And I think that's what wrestlers need. They need passion. If you don't have passion, it doesn't matter how good they are. It just comes across bland,
right?
And
I agree.
And anybody can do a spear. A lot of guys do spears.
So some craziness there. The club versus John Cena and then Enzo and Big Cass went down pretty much how everybody thought it would.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I don't think anybody really thought that AJ and the club were going to get that win. No. But a solid match. I thought there wasn't anything that made you really go, oh shit, and there wasn't really anything that made you go, okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, didn't they have like a promo with Enzo before? He killed that promo, man.
Well, something that people I think overlook right now, they look at Cass and go, that's the big guy, that could be a guy who's next in line. Enzo's doing his thing, man, and I think if you take Enzo away from Cass, like with that microphone right now, Cass isn't really what you think he's going to be. He still needs some time, and Enzo's that missing piece for him.
They're peanut butter and jelly. They work
really
so well together.
And they're entertaining as shit.
And you can tell they're friends, and you can tell they get along. But the thing is, like, Enzo has the gift of gab, like he says. Yeah. He's the, smack talker Skywalker.
Yeah.
And everything that dude lays down on the mic, I honestly don't understand how he comes up with it. It's genius.
Right. It just goes.
And last night, he did that. He laid down this whole promo. And I was like, damn, this is a long promo.
Yeah.
I was like, are they going to give the club the chance to respond? No, he burned the club in that promo, and then they come out and get, their ass whooped a little bit.
Right.
Well, it was a back and forth match, but I could not see John Cena and Enzo and Big Cass losing because Enzo and Big Cass are so popular.
Oh, yeah.
And they're great.
And it's John Cena.
Yeah, of course.
They let AJ beat John Cena one-on-one.
But it wasn't
They're
clean.
going other directions.
Yeah.
The club going to Raw, Enzo and Big Cass going to Raw. As tag teams, they're going to Raw. As individuals, John Cena and AJ Styles going to SmackDown.
Yeah.
I think that there's room
and
there.
that's an interesting move, John Cena. Yeah, and John Cena's a SmackDown. They're trying to basically take an established star and I guess establish a new identity for SmackDown.
I was a little worried, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but about how the rosters were laid out as far as guys that are established versus new guys that are like setting the bar with work, because we've said on this podcast before, if you watch an NXT TakeOver show and they have it right next to a WWE pay-per-view, the NXT show work-wise is just showing them up from top to bottom, hands down. I mean,
it feels more electric, and it feels like the WWE main shows sometimes can feel overproduced. Yes. It feels like
micromanaged,
very micromanaged, and that's what happens when you get into the NXT shows. It's so the audience is so close, and it's produced by Triple H.
Well, none of that. I think it feels organic. And Triple H has a good finger on letting things develop.
It feels like an old school wrestling show, and that's what I think a lot of the purists gravitate to about NXT, because you watch it and you're like, I'm watching, what I used to watch back in the day. Saturday Night Main Event or Sunday Morning Shotgun or whatever. Saturday Morning Shotgun, excuse me.
Yeah.
And it's just more wrestling orientated. It's not so much heavy on the storylines, and the storylines exist, but they exist in context.
Yeah, less is more.
Oh yeah,
less is more.
And even the announcing, like they moved up Corey Graves, and and honestly, when he first started, I was like, I don't know how this guy's gonna do, But he grew on me a lot.
I gotta say, after watching NXT the past couple weeks and watching SmackDown for the draft, I really dig Mauro Ranallo, man.
Oh hell,
this guy's badass. I mean,
and
I read an interview piece from him where he openly said that Vince McMahon was telling him he needed to take it down a little bit. that Vince was kind of like, "Hey man, you're overdoing it," and he was like, "No, like I'm trying to make sure that the fans know that every match is important."
Can they play a clip for Vince when he used to do announcing? And oh my God, look at that maneuver! And Mario's just the same way. He's like, top rope Hurricane Rana. It's just very exciting. I don't know what Vince is talking about. Vince was the worst.
Well, they said that like they've worked it out, but I really like it's a breath of fresh air for sure with Mauro in there.
How do you feel about King getting demoted?
He's not the same guy without JR.
And he wasn't the same guy when they clipped like the PG.
Yeah.
The
when
PG-13
he stopped being allowed to do the dirty jokes.
Oh yeah.
And then they kind of tried to make him go back to being a bad guy on the announce team, but even that has felt very bland and half-assed, forced. Yeah. So I'm okay with him no longer being there. I would like to see Byron Saxon and Corey Graves see how they do, because everybody that works in the WWE has said that Michael Cole does a phenomenal job prepping and everything. So I hope for them, their sake, that they're able to mix it up with them. And then on top of that, to see Mauro Ranallo work with JBL, who, we obviously know JBL plays the antagonist on that announce team. So I want to see some stuff out of Mauro. Like, we know he can talk, but can he play off of somebody like that? Because in New Japan, Josh Barnett and him didn't have that dynamic.
No.
Josh Barnett and him just called the action and told the story of these athletes.
Exactly. It was
now you have somebody who's poking at you, who's poking at these athletes. Can Mauro adjust to that? And
JBL is like an encyclopedia of wrestling. Like dude, he'll bust out all these references, and it's hilarious. I love it, and I think it's gonna play off really well against him. Hopefully the banter is there, but I think it will play off well. But honestly, I'm excited. I think what they're doing right now is probably the most excited I've been for WWE
for
in a long
while.
time.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Creation of a new title.
Well, we'll get to that. Okay, slow down. We'll get there.
Oh, man.
We'll get
Come on,
there.
we don't want to blow it all right away, man. Come on.
Hey, come on. You know better than that. You don't go into there with a girl with a loaded gun. Come on now. So, other matches that were notable on Battleground. Sasha Banks versus Charlotte and Dana Brooke.
Yeah.
Sasha had a mystery partner. Everybody kind of assumed it was going to be Bayley after the draft. Glad to see that it was her.
Yes.
But from what my understanding is, it's a one-off. She's not staying.
Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna be like that for long.
No.
Yeah.
The rumor is that it'll be more after SummerSlam.
Badass,
that they want Sasha and Charlotte to kind of do their thing.
Yeah.
And then
all those women are badass, man. And that's the thing is, if they bring her up, that's gonna just help that division even
making
more.
it stronger. Absolutely.
Gonna be sick.
Was there any other? The Wyatts and New Day.
Yeah,
that was the other one. I tell you what, man, I wasn't exactly excited about this program when they put it together.
Yeah.
But them going to the Wyatt compound was obviously a shot at TNA and the final deletion bullshit.
You've been deleted.
So, I mean, I get that. But one of the things that's really intrigued me about this program and this storyline was how they were pulling Xavier Woods.
Yeah.
Like, they were slowly, like, he's the most talkative, the loudest guy in the group. And he's the guy that's stuck in the trance.
Yeah.
He's the guy that they're kind of like, oh, and he's warning his own guys, like, hey, man, these guys aren't to be messed with type of deal. And now that's not going to happen. They're not even going to follow through on that because the Wyatt family was drafted separately.
Yeah, and I think they were testing the waters to see what would happen if they teased the breakup for the New Day, because they did tease it.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think it just rubbed everybody the wrong way. So they were like, screw that.
Yeah,
let's not do that. Yeah. Let's just draft these guys over here instead.
Yeah, they went a different direction.
Well, Braun Strowman, he got drafted to Raw. He made his Raw debut.
Tonight, yeah. Is there anything else that I'm missing from Battleground?
Rusev,
Sami Zayn.
Well, yeah, actually, let's go into that one first.
Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I tell you what, Sami Zayn, since he's been on the main roster, you've seen glimpses of what Sami can do. There hasn't been like this full match or full-on showing of Sami Zayn where you go, shit, that's the guy that we watched as El Generico and everything else. Yeah. But Battleground, I tell you what, the way that they let him go through the finish and everything else so decisively with Kevin Owens, and the Kevin Owens Sami Zayn storyline reminds me a lot of Punk and Bryan and Shawn Michaels and Bret. Yeah. That when you need something, you can always bring those two back together, and you know you're going to get something authentic and good.
And it's almost even better because they actually, like, behind the the doors,
behind the scenes,
they actually do get along.
Yeah.
Like Bret and Shawn got along for a while, but there was always a lot of jealousy and animosity. They get along. They're best friends. They're like at each other's babies' births and
the weddings,
and everything. And it shows because that chemistry that they have in the ring. They go violent. They go violent. They go aggressive, and it's awesome.
Recently, a quote from CM Punk at a UFC Q&A, and they asked him about being friends and people you don't like in the wrestling business, and he goes, honestly, when you're in the wrestling business, the people you don't get along with are the people you want to work light with. You don't want to hurt those people because you don't want to give them any reason to talk shit or shit on you to creative or
to
whatever.
Give you a receipt.
Yeah, or to knock you the fuck out back. And he goes, chances are what happens is when it's your closest friend, you beat the shit out of him and you lay it in for real, and it shows.
It's like, chop me, buddy, chop me right here.
Yeah, exactly. So it shows, and I think it's very evident between those two that
they have that.
Like you said, is money.
They have that rivalry that just every time I look at them and think about them, I'm like, fight forever.
Yeah.
That chant, that fight forever. Yeah. That chant only recently really came out when it was Nakamura and Zayn.
Sammy.
Yeah, but that to me they epitomize the fight forever chant. They should fight forever, and they will fight forever, Lord willing. But as long as they're on Raw, they're gonna somehow find a way to mix it up again. I think
too, that they put them together.
I did not expect that.
I was thinking they were gonna go their separate ways, but
how do you feel about that? Do you like the idea of them being together on Raw?
Again, I think it's one of those things that you had the blow off where Sammy gets him. Now keep them apart for a while. You can bring them back together later when there's like a championship involved or something like that, or where like you can twist the story with it. Yeah. But as far as now goes, for now, this is it. Let them be apart for now. Yeah. Be on the same show, cool. But for now, let them go. Because then that leaves that thought in people's mind, like that's always there.
And I think they should have split them up. I think they should have put Sami Zayn on SmackDown or vice versa, because they're both really great characters. They're big characters, and it doesn't matter who they work with. They're gonna do really well. I think having them both on the same show is cool, but I think they could have flourished easily. Either way. And now you don't have that tease of them always, intertwining. And then eventually, if they have next year's draft and they get on the same show, then it's like, hey, what the hell, man? You're here.
Yeah, you're here
again. Oh hell no. But they did what they did.
Yeah. So, you have something else from Battleground?
Yeah, The Miz versus
Darren Young.
Yes, Darren Young, and he retained. Honestly, I mean, it was whatever match.
It's one of those things I don't think people really expected much.
Yeah.
Nice to see Darren Young in that spot.
Yeah. I mean, I like kind of what they're doing with both the characters. I just don't really... I mean, there's nothing to care about that program besides the Intercontinental Championship. But I really like what they're doing with the Miz character, with Maurice. And it works. They just need to put him in something that has more meaning, because if you don't care, you don't care, you know?
Exactly.
And the thing with the Bob Backlund and
Darren Young,
it's funny. But yes, it needs something more. It needs like a little kick. I don't know, something kick to make it more interesting. It's just not quite where it needs to be at the moment. Right. So that match was kind of just forgettable.
And then the U.S. title match.
Yeah,
Rusev and Zack Ryder.
Yeah.
The ending to that match kind of interesting. I mean, I don't think anybody expected Zack Ryder to beat Rusev.
No.
Unfortunately for Zack Ryder. He's been shuffled around so much that you don't expect him to get stuff like those.
And Mojo Rawley made his debut.
Yeah, and the ending of that, him just running out and getting in his face and yelling a lot, I thought shouldn't have been done that way.
Well, my wife keeps asking, why did they call up Mojo Rawley? I'm like, you know why? Because they need Rob Gronkowski in the audience. And that's what that's going to do.
They're best friends.
They're boys. So, that... He's actually been at NXT two or three times.
Yeah, Gronk.
Yeah, the Gronk. And so I think that's kind of a chess move for WWE.
I believe so, but I just think that the way that he ran out there, it was supposed to be making the save of Zack Ryder getting the shit kicked out.
But he didn't touch Rusev at all.
He never touched him. He just started yelling in his face like
It was like a jock yelling in a guy, get out of my face, man. Blah, blah,
I mean, the idea is that
touch him.
His catchy character is that he's hyped up all the time and intense all the time. But for him, you're selling Rusev as this big old crusher dude who just beat the shit out of your friend, and you're not going to lay a hand on him?
It made Rusev actually look real cool.
Yeah.
Because he just backed away.
The fact that he looked at him okay.
He's like, all right, you're yelling like an idiot. I'm just going to go ahead and stand with my hot wife, fiance or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Here, right? You keep yelling there with Zack Ryder.
Exactly. So that's pretty much Battleground.
And then Natalya and Becky Lynch, which was kind of, honestly, that was a great match. It just didn't have a lot of stakes. There was no.
I just think there was no build in it.
And there was no.
You had the thing where she turned on her and stuff like that, but they didn't give. When you're looking at that, it's I feel like they're doing a good job with the women's situation. Yeah. But it's they only have room for one.
I think it would have been cool if they would have just hyped that match as two female wrestlers that are on top of their game that are going to bring it.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be petty shit, because that's what it ended up trying to be.
Exactly.
And the match itself was great, and it didn't need that other crap.
Yeah. Coming into tonight, Monday, the first Raw that was brand exclusive, as Manuel gave away
WikiLeaks
to start the show. Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon announced that Raw will introduce a new championship at SummerSlam. The name, I'm not particularly fond of the name. They could have went a different direction.
Reading it, I wasn't either.
And if you look, there's already memes out about it already.
Really?
Because of the Universal Production Company. They announced that they will be the primary holders of the WWE Universal Championship, is what it'll be called. They're saying it is supposed to be a term of endearment to the WWE Universe and WWE fans, which I think they really could have went a different direction with a different name. I mean, I'm not exactly a stickler that, they needed to bring back the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, same here.
I was okay if they brought something different to the table, but I thought that they could have went a different direction. They didn't need to go that way and do something so outlandish. Now, but the intrigue is definitely there now because it means that there's going to be a different belt design.
Yeah,
it has to be. There's no way.
What is it going to look like? You know?
And that's the thing. That's the intrigue.
What does a Universal Championship look like?
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing is there's some intrigue there of what the championship will actually look like and that type of business. And they started off the show by bringing the entire roster out on the stage.
They had them all up on stage.
A new stage,
it's not a new stage, but
redesign.
It's a new layout. Yeah,
redesign.
New layout as far as the screens and everything go.
Cool.
I hope SmackDown has something completely different. I don't want to see
the big fist like they used to back in the day.
Something way fucking different. I don't need to see the same layout that they've been doing. But they brought everybody out and announced that they were going to do 2 Fatal 4-Way matches. And the winner would face Seth Rollins at SummerSlam.
And he was given just the front ticket.
Oh, yeah. Because they're selling him with Stephanie McMahon as that's her boy. Yeah. He's the pet project. He's the future.
Number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. So, and they're going to hype that as him being the number 1 overall pick.
They've been doing it.
So they announce everybody that's involved in the matches. Cesaro, Rusev, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Chris Jericho, Roman Reigns. And then, who do they wait for last? Finn Balor. And he walks out from behind everybody else and walks to the front. And immediately, the crowd goes ballistic.
I think they purposely kind of hit him, right?
He didn't come out. He walked out while they were talking.
Oh, okay.
Because as they filed out, you couldn't see him. And then you see Mark Henry he blocked the walkway on purpose.
Yeah, I kind of saw that.
You could kind of see him and then somebody was standing there. And
he kind of went like this.
He kind of looked like this and said something. And then he blocked that way. And then Jericho stepped in the way too. It was the 2 veteran guys that knew hey, we got to keep this here.
The 2 big guys.
The big guy in Mark Henry,
Sexual chocolate.
That's right. And then as they were talking, I think he kind of walked out from the side and from the back, and then when he was already there, they were like, okay, and they separated. But the crowd went crazy. One of the things that's been a big question is how is the new WWE Universe audience compared to the NXT audience going to accept his entrance when he's not the demon, when he's not painted up. And they went batshit crazy and followed along with it the entire way. So he was a part of the Fatal 4-Way match. The deal was whoever won the 2 Fatal 4-Way matches would fight in the main event. Yeah. And then they would get... tonight. And then the winner of the main event would get Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. And the way that it went down was it came down to Finn Balor and Roman Reigns. And in my personal opinion, I was having a conversation with my brother, and he was like, what do you think? I go, they got to go Roman because they're going to finish this thing with Seth. Seth will win the title because they're not going to let Roman do it after he just got popped. So they're going to let Seth win. He's the number 1 overall draft pick. He's the first champion. It makes sense. And that's the easy way for creative to do it. They went completely 180 degrees the other direction and had Finn Balor beat Roman Reigns cleanly.
And I think that wouldn't have happened if Roman didn't get popped for the...
Agreed. That's another way that I feel like they were like, hey, guess what? Goat boy, lay down.
Yeah. Because I was also expecting interference because of, the club. The club used to be associated with Finn Balor the same way they were associated with AJ Styles.
Well, there's been a lot of rumors online, too, that Jericho's going to work with Balor because they're advertised to work together in live events.
Yeah.
So generally, when you run a loop of live events, that means you're doing some sort of program on TV with that person. And there was a lot of speculation that Jericho's the one that lost in his match with Roman.
Yeah.
So I could have seen him interfering and it costing Balor while he was attacking Roman. And so then Balor gets pissed at him. Now we have a feud with Jericho. Roman moves on scot-free, right? But they went the other way. Like I said, Balor hits the coup de grace off the top and winds up getting the win.
It was a clean win.
Yeah, it was very...
And he got his ass whooped most of the match. They made Roman look strong. Which they usually do. And at the end, he pulled it out. He got him and he went off on that little, tangent, got him with the coup de grace, and got the pin clean. And it was kind of surprising. I think everybody was surprised.
And the crowd there was like, what? Yeah! Like, you could tell there was a delay. Roman Reigns isn't getting shoved down our throat. Yeah, Finn Balor, yeah!
And I like this for Roman's character. It just shows a little bit of a difference in what they were doing before, which they were just
I had a problem with. Yeah, the one thing I had a problem with though is before some of these matches and after every damn match, they got an interview going. Did they do anything different that you weren't expecting? How'd you feel? Like, leave that shit as a segment for backstage. Or one of the things that I think WWE has missed out on, or gone away from, I should say, not missed out on, but gone away from. I talked to you about watching that Shawn Michaels promo from '97 with The Undertaker. Who's the guy that conducts the interview in the middle of that ring when it starts? Vince McMahon.
Used to be, yeah.
They start with him. He was the announcer at the time. He's doing an interview. In WCW, it was Gene Okerlund. There were certain segments of the show where that's all that was. You came out to the middle of the ring, you cut a promo, you did your interview, and then you went back and later you had your match. I think the WWE is overthinking this. And instead of having somebody come out and conduct an interview with them, and there's your time, there's your segment, then now, and one of the things that they didn't do, like if you look at the Sean Brett storyline, that was something where he was interviewing one of them, the other guy would come out, and he's now mediating. They don't go straight into a fight because he showed up. They don't just stand there and talk amongst each other. You got somebody mediating.
That used to be Brother Love.
Yes, he was one of them. Yep, he's another one. So I think that if they go back to that in that formula, that they're going to get more success out of that. And then instead of after every segment, interview, they don't need to do that.
No. I think, I mean, I like it. I'm not going to lie. I kind of liked it, but I think that they could have made it better. The way they could have made it better is it just seems like the superstars weren't ready for it.
No.
And so they were like,
they're trying to catch their breath,
emotional, like in another match that we're going to talk about. Yeah. And so that's where I think it kind of disconnected because it was just kind of, it seemed like the superstars didn't even know that it was going to happen. Yeah. And I guess in the situations before, it was planned out to a point. It wasn't maybe scripted to the T that it was nowadays, but it was still planned out there. Like, hey, we're going to interview you in the ring, Jake the Snake. And he would cut his in-ring promo and all that. And I think they could do it. Because I think what they're trying to really go for is like the UFC vibe. They're trying to like the way
that's exactly what like it seemed like a rip off of after the matches.
Yeah, even the way that they had the commentators at standing by the desk. Kind of not really, sitting down.
At the desk. Well, they moved the desk. That's another thing. They moved the desk. It's no longer ringside. It's up near the stage.
I think, and then
so they're watching shit off of monitors completely. They're not watching the ring.
They're not using their monitors to smash people.
That's not the first time it's happened.
No, yeah, they did it before with the brand split last time.
That's not, and it's funny before like. They had it right next to the stage, and the one thing I remember is every time Kane came out, it would scare the shit out of Jim Ross. Jim Ross would be like, "My God, hellfire and brimstone!" But the thing is, they're trying to go more for the combat sport feel, and I got the vibe because the matches were super long today.
They were,
and it was today. Raw was about wrestling, and that was awesome.
I tell you what, man, like for as much as I just talked about this right now about the rosters being off. Tonight's show gave me some hope for Monday Night Raw going forward for sure. Yeah. And the big match, like obviously Finn Balor's debut is huge. Him being in the match with Seth Rollins, they're gonna have a phenomenal match. On the off chance that they don't at SummerSlam, maybe. But Finn is fucking amazing. Seth right now is coming off that knee injury. He was in the prime of what he's doing and only getting better.
Yeah.
So I don't see any reason why these two can't have a monster fucking match.
They'll have them tie up a little bit before then.
They'll do some stuff. Yeah, they'll do some stuff. But the main match from tonight that really got things going and get it on track for Raw was Sasha Banks versus Charlotte. A match that we thought, I'm sure you were in the same boat, thought was going to be booked for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
These two touched in NXT. And by touched, I mean that they fought in NXT.
They touch, but not.
We hope we get to watch them touch on TV. You know what I'm saying? Huh? So they fought in NXT and had some great matches in NXT, and they were brought up around the same time. And a lot of people thought, these are the two that they're going to jump right into it with and set the bar with. And they went a completely different direction. Took Charlotte one way, Sasha a different way, and then even at one point left Sasha off TV.
Yeah.
To keep her out of the way of the program they were running.
I just don't think they believed in her the way that You know, the audience believes in her. And on top of that, I think Triple H believes in her. I just, you know, when Vince McMahon gets a hold of these superstars, it's really for him to decide, and they have to prove to him that they're worthy of whatever they think they're worthy of.
Right.
And if he says, nah, that's not what I like, and they're not garnering the reaction that I like, then he immediately can sometimes get cold feet and just be like, screw that. Like Fandango.
Well, no, I don't. With her, I don't think.
Or not even Fandango. I'm sorry, Tyler Breeze. That was probably a better.
That's a better example. Yeah. I don't think with her though that it was so much that.
Do you think they were trying to protect her more?
I think they were trying to protect her and Charlotte with the storyline that they had going with Becky and
having the clicks and stuff.
Who was the? It was Nikki. Was the other one that was in the middle of all that. Yeah. So and then at that time, Paige, you want to talk about somebody who's got cold feet? Holy shit, where's Paige? Right. She's disappeared. They sent her to Raw. Not even on the show tonight.
Nope.
Somebody who was like super prevalent over the last couple years in the women's division, and now you can't even figure out what they're doing.
You know, I don't want to comment on anything with Paige that I don't know, but the honest truth is I think that there might be some personal issues going on with her. Maybe within the company. Maybe they're, you know, just not feeling...
They still have her on the Total Divas show.
Yeah.
And I think... I was talking to my sister about this because she's a big Total Divas fan. I said, because she goes, well, where's this girl? Where's it? One of the things as we got to talking about it, I realized majority of the girls that are on the Total Divas show... Don't get TV time anymore.
Don't wrestle. So, you know what? You're right. Maybe that is the case. And on top of that, I heard she's also dating Alberto Del Rio.
Yeah, and he's on a different show. They're not happy with the brass at WWE about that.
Yeah.
But Sasha Banks and Charlotte, I tell you what, man, you want to talk about a hell of a match that people were invested in.
Really?
It was every bit that you thought it was going to be and then some. And to surprise people... Because this match we all figured would be booked for SummerSlam, so we figured there was going to be some sort of interference from Dana Brooke, or that they were going to find a way to do something, and a ref situation where the ref gets knocked out, something like that. It went over well. They gave them time. They had plenty of time. They had a spot where Sasha went a little bit Eddie Guerrero, who she has actually said like that's her main influence in wrestling. She grabbed the title and then had Dana Brooke right next to her and threw the title up at her and then laid down like she was going to hit her. Referee throws out Dana Brooke. Now it's 1-on-1. And as the camera, I don't know who the camera guy was, but kudos to the camera guy for catching an angle over Dana Brooke's shoulder where you still see at the top of her shoulder and you see Sasha laying on the ground waving.
It looked
like
hilarious.
She's perfectly under the mat where the ref can't see it and she's just
smiling.
Like, see you later.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, exactly. And then the match itself between those two just delivered. And to get into the finish, she hits the bank statement and, it was
like a rough match. Like, it was just, like, dirty.
It was gritty.
And it was gritty. And you could tell there was a couple of spots where they were trying to do something and maybe didn't quite work out. But they always recovered really well.
That bad dive where she dove through and landed shoulder and neck first. And I was like, shit, here it is. I was like, that's going to be a wrap. And her feet kicked over reminiscent of Lita with Trish Stratus where she did the same dive and her feet came over Scorpion style.
Honestly, it was reminiscent of that. Very reminiscent of that.
I thought it was a great match. And to surprise everybody, Sasha Banks walks out of Raw, the new WWE Women's Champion.
And they interviewed her after, and of course she couldn't talk.
She couldn't talk, and the fans are screaming, "You deserve it." You want to talk about people that were behind her. This crowd was behind her, and I think you're going to find a lot of crowds that are behind her. And
she cut a pretty good promo, even when she composed herself. She was like, "There's only one boss in WWE," and it's like, there you go.
Like she definitely has been deserving of that spot for sure.
She wrestles amazing, and honestly, everything she does is believable, and the way she carries herself is believable. And the thing when I would watch the Bella Twins, as much as they're hot, let's all say that they're hot, they're beautiful,
right?
But there was always a layer that I couldn't get past where it just didn't look like
that they weren't wrestlers.
Exactly, it just seemed like they were models that were there to wrestle,
that learned to wrestle.
Exactly, And with Sasha, she talked about it. She's been dreaming about it since she was 10 years old.
It's the same thing with Bailey.
She would beg her cousin or her uncle Snoop or cousin Snoop, right, to take her to the shows and stuff. And I think that kids growing up, like you can relate to somebody like that.
Yeah.
Hey man, I wanted to go see the shows. I would beg my dad or so and so.
Well, I think Bailey's the same way. That she just genuinely knows and loves how to wrestle.
And I think the funny thing is that Charlotte wasn't like that. Charlotte, like when you look back on Charlotte's trek, her dad is Ric Flair.
She's only 4 years deep,
but
she didn't pay any indie dues.
She didn't care about wrestling. She didn't really grow up watching it the way that people would assume. But when she decided to get into it, she's such an athletic person, and she's one of the best out there, I would say, because she did like 2 amazing moves. She did like that moonsault,
to the outside.
And then didn't she do like
she did a standing one where she missed in the ring and landed right on her feet?
Exactly, dude. And actually, I want to say that wasn't that a shooting star press?
No. It was just a straight moonsault. She landed feet first.
That was pretty amazing.
Well, yeah, that's athletic.
So Charlotte is Flair's.
Yeah, daughter, her real name's Ashley Flair.
And Ric Flair has had several children try to get into the business, and one of them unfortunately committed suicide. One of them, he did wrestle like in WCW, but he never really quite had it the way his dad did. But it's funny, the one who has it it's Charlotte, the girl, and she's super athletic. She looks like him. She has the mannerisms like him.
They do a good job of building her character in that regard to where you don't like her because she doesn't come like her dad is her wrestling background, but she didn't love wrestling, and that makes true wrestling fans go, "Hey, well, fuck you too. Then you don't like us, we don't like you."
But she's progressed crazy in 4 years. Like,
absolutely.
She wrestles like somebody who's been wrestling forever.
For
it
a
seems
long time,
like,
They got Sasha on the ground. The cameraman got her.
Yeah. I told you.
Yeah.
She's all smiling at her. She's all.
It was awesome.
That was awesome.
It was awesome because when she tossed the belt, she tossed it like
super high,
hard, and so. Hey, props to Dana for catching
that belt,
because she tossed that shit like to the second row, and she was like, ah.
Oh, if Charlotte pulls this off, this is awesome. A superplex. Oh, she bounced her on the ropes.
See, Manuel's watching the highlights back.
Yeah, and that was such a great match. I honestly think it was probably the best match of the night.
Oh, absolutely,
hands down. And it was a very emotional. Like, not all the time when titles change hands do you feel emotion or do you even care.
Speaking of the title changes.
Oh, that's what I said, was badass.
The surprise of that title changed hands on Raw.
Yes.
They didn't wait for a pay-per-view because they've done that so often of, no, we're not going to change hands. You're going to get beat dirty. It's a controversial finish. My foot was on the rope. Oh, it's a draw, so it's here.
And I don't think they messed up by doing that. I think what they did was they make me care about a rematch now. Now I want to see the rematch at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And that's going to be dope.
And you just saw these two can go.
Yeah.
So you want to give them more time.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I mean, and SummerSlam, as we all know, has been bumped to 4 hours, just like WrestleMania.
Woo.
So it's a lot of wrestling.
What about a two out of three falls? I mean, they can do something.
I think down the road that's something they can definitely look into.
You know, because I wouldn't like. I mean, a rematch, straight rematch would be cool. But I think if they added like the element of a 2 out of 3s,
I think if you go back,
Iron Woman 30-minute match or something
like Bayley
that.
and Sasha from NXT. Why not? Well, I think that you go into SummerSlam, armchair booking here. If you go into SummerSlam, you have Sasha go over again, but Dana Brooke gets in the way of Charlotte.
Yeah.
Then she kicks Dana Brooke to the curb. Now you no longer have that accessory for her.
Yeah.
Then you can go into like the 2 out of 3 falls where it's like, no, we're gonna find out who the best is.
Yeah.
Me and you. You know, that's something that I would prefer to see.
Because they are the premier women's wrestlers on the card right now.
Absolutely.
So who else would you have? What else do you want to do for SummerSlam at least? I mean, I know WWE, if it was up to them, they'd have Ronda Rousey on there.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen. And if it was up to them, they'd try to do something along the lines with the celebrity. But they don't have celebrities right now that are going to get the same reaction that these women are going to get.
I think, and this is just my complete fantasy booking status, I think for another women's match, because you have 4 hours, you go Becky Lynch and Paige. And you have Becky Lynch be like, she's still the new girl, she's still the good one. You have Paige, who they made a bad guy. You have her come in and rip her about like being a foreigner that's like stealing her idea that she's English, you know, she's the first English women's champion. Yeah. Well, now you're trying to steal my shit as the first Irish champion, but you know what I mean? And then you could build something there.
The only problem with that is I just feel like it would be built really quick, and they already have some real estate with Becky Lynch and Natty. I think they're both on SmackDown as well. And I'll be quite honest with you, I'm a much bigger fan of Natty than I am of Paige. I mean, I think Paige has a great look, but Paige, the way she wrestles is a little bit more old school. Like she'll
I didn't think about that.
Do a lot of head stomps, a lot of stomps, a lot of strikes, but it's not so much. There's not a lot of technicality.
You bring that up. I forgot about that. That Becky's on SmackDown. She's not on Raw. Somebody I would like to see her work with early to see where she's at is Carmella. Yeah, I would like to see where she's at.
But the thing with Carmella is, what is her character? Why do I care about her? Because even in NXT, I didn't quite care about her without.
I was cool with her with them.
She has a good personality.
There was some cool stuff with them.
Yeah.
Because in real life, she does date Cass.
Yeah.
But I think that like they could get some ground going if they get behind her early.
Yeah.
Because she's a good talker for a woman.
But do you think she's a face or a heel? Like especially going against
this
Becky
is an
Lynch.
Opportunity to do something different with Becky. If you go Carmella, Carmella's got to be the good guy, and then you got to have Becky go back. And I think it's an opportunity to see a different side of Becky.
Yeah, I just don't see the audience like booing Becky.
At this point, I don't. But if you let and you don't gonna start it right away because you're looking at SummerSlam is not to the end of August.
Yeah.
So you have 4 weeks to build this. You let Becky do some stuff as far as like staying out of the way. You build Carmella. You let her have a good match. You have, Becky stand there and kind of like watch. Oh, I'm looking over the new girls because I've been here for a year now. I'm guiding these new girls. And you have Carmella win a match or two that's solid. That's not a quick match, but just win a solid match.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you have her, you have Becky walk out, shake her hand, kind of like, hey, good job. You guys are doing well, kind of, Or you have her in the back. You do a backstage segment where all the girls are in the hallway or in the locker room, and you have Becky talking to them, kind of giving them advice. And when Carmella's not there, she's talking shit about Carmella. But then when she walks into the room, hey, good job. Oh, yeah. Now you're building something there where there's some heat there. And then when Becky's out there, now Carmella has a reason to come out and see what's going on type of deal. And it's kind of a short build, but it's not because it's the first of a series of things you can go with from there. You know what I mean?
And that would be cool. It's just I find it hard to see WWE wanting to put Carmella on like SummerSlam.
Yeah,
it would be like a kickoff.
Well, here's the problem.
It'd be like a kickoff.
If you look at SmackDown, like beyond Becky and Natty, women wise, you only have 4 of the women, so you may not have a choice.
Yeah,
they showed Nia Jax tonight on Raw. Yeah. I wasn't impressed. I don't think that she should have been called up so soon because she's still fairly new to NXT. I think it should have been Bayley for sure, or even Asuka. Yeah. Either one. Yeah. They could have went either way with that one, and I would have been perfect.
I just feel like with Asuka, I think it's a fine line because if you don't protect her character, you could ruin that character, and she doesn't speak English that well.
Well, see, here's my problem: is I feel like there's not to say that there's a quota or anything like that. But you're looking at 3 Japanese wrestlers in Hideo Itami, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Asuka.
Yeah.
Why not bring one of them and use that as something to build on?
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing about Asuka is just, honestly, she probably, besides Natty, besides Sasha Banks, and besides Charlotte, she's probably the better one out of some of the
followers behind. Yeah,
she wrestles really, really differently than a lot of the women.
She uses that strong style,
and honestly, it looks so awesome. Like the first time I ever saw her wrestle, I think she wrestled Eva Marie.
I believe so.
And honestly, she bounced her off the rope. When she came back, she grabbed her arm and got her into like this like arm bar. Yeah, and it was just like the sickest thing I've ever seen. And when she does it now, even now, I still.
And see, that's something I see that is like disrespectful. That like they drafted Eva Marie.
Yeah.
Like, really? You're going to put her ahead of Bayley? Ahead of Eva Marie? I hope you got some big cards in the deck for those other 2.
I think the big reason, too, no pun intended, but a big reason why they drafted Nia is because she's bigger. She's like a different size different look, woman.
That was posted on Triple H's Instagram after being different is good. It's true. It's a different look.
They can build
her
up.
If they build her the right way, she's got a shot.
Like to me, she's like a Diesel. She's like a female Diesel.
I get it, but like I think they can. If they what they need to do is stay away from the fact that she's related to The Rock, because they keep doing that shit with Roman Reigns and the Usos. Yeah, stay away from that.
Which is funny. I don't know if you noticed last night when Dean Ambrose won, the Usos raised them up.
Yeah, he was,
and Dean Ambrose pinned Roman Reigns. So their cousin,
legitimately,
lifted up the guy who kicked his ass. So that didn't make any sense.
Well, from they're on SmackDown type of thing.
I guess in that, but even then.
But yeah, if they build her, you know what I would like to see them do? Build her like they did Awesome Kong in TNA.
Yeah.
How she would just beat the shit out of everybody. And then you find one girl who just takes the beating, but just keeps coming. And people get behind the girl that just keeps coming.
Yeah.
So I think that they have a chance to do something good with her. Eva Marie's fucked. I'm sorry. From the get-go, she's fucked. People don't want to see her wrestle. No. People don't care that she's trying to wrestle.
Nope.
And, not to knock her effort, because she, like, they've showed her she's trying to train and get better, but it's not something you learn in a year or 2 years. Like, this shit takes time.
It's a career thing.
Yeah. It's just like anything. Like, if you don't have the passion.
When they show her, it only hurts her on Total Divas when they show her saying that she's more worried about posting pictures and posing for her website.
Well, the thing is, if you, I mean, I don't follow her on anything, but I've seen her, like, social media, and it's more of a modeling social media.
Yeah.
Like, you know, her Instagram.
I'll take this for bookings.
A lot of bikini pictures. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're following her because you want her to be a wrestler and you care about that part of it, then she's really not for you.
It's not gonna be there.
She's more famous for being who she is, and actually she's more famous for sucking, for not being a great you can't wrestle chance, and for people just she's being like a punchline basically. Yeah. Do you remember when they tried to have her do like ring commentary?
Yep. They had to try to do a ring announcing. They had to do commentary. They tried to have her do what was the other thing? There was something else they had to try.
They had to try several different things, and it's always been train wrecks. When she had to announce people, coming down, she forgot one guy's name straight up, and she just announced two of the guys.
Up like where Randy Orton was from.
Yeah, it was quite embarrassing, and they showed that like in backstage. The guy came up to her and he was like, "Do you even know my name?" And the guy's name was Jinder Mahal, and she's like, Ginger Mahal?
Yeah.
Wow.
So and that's kind of how it's gone for her. And I think she's going to just be there because she's a good-looking person. Yeah. But I don't think they should really care about her wrestling. I don't really see her as a wrestler.
I could see her, like, if they teach her how to do the valet thing, there's not a whole lot of valets anymore.
No. I mean,
why not?
She's a great screen presence. She has good screen presence, but she just doesn't have the it factor for wrestling. She, to me, is like another Bella twin. Mm-hmm. And I don't care how much people say, like, the Bella twins, they've improved. They have. They still suck.
It's not enough to... They have improved, but I'm not going to say...
I'll say this much. I'll say this much. Nikki Bella is, par. She's
par for the course.
She can do it, But Brie, man, that girl...
It's hard to watch.
It was cringeworthy, especially when she would yell, Brie mode! And, like, with no emotion, like... They had a program where her and her husband got, like, kidnapped by Kane. Yeah. And she's, like, in the back of a car, and she's just like, she
couldn't act worth the fuck.
Yeah. Also, when her husband got like hurt and his career ended, they would ask her questions, and she would go on screen and she'd be like, "My husband is blah blah blah," and it just never came across as genuine. I'm like, dude, if that's your spouse, you should be crying. You should be like, it sucks that he's not going to be able to do what he loves. And honestly, it'll always look scripted. And to me, that's going to be Eva Marie. Like, it's never going to look natural. I don't think. Yeah. It's just not for her.
I agree.
And I think she's just going to be a face, and eventually she's going to move on to modeling and doing other things.
Yeah.
Because that's really what she cares about.
The New Day celebrating being the longest reigning tag team champions.
Yeah.
Which was eventually broken up by the club.
Yep.
As we said, AJ Styles getting drafted to SmackDown. The club, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson being drafted to Raw. Glad to see that they're going to get a run at the tag titles.
And I hope that they build them up a little bit better than they've been doing recently. Because
early on, they had the right idea, I think, of them jumping people, and then immediately you go into a thing where you let guys beat the shit out of them. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, it didn't make sense, especially when you have Luke Gallows, who's huge, and then Carl Anderson should be able to hold his own, but since he's smaller, they make him the fall guy. They make him the guy who gets his ass whipped for 5 minutes and then tags in the bigger guy. Yeah. But then even the bigger guy ends up getting his ass whipped.
Podcasting wise, obviously this is our podcasting show, but Ric Flair's got his own podcast.
Yes, he does.
And it's back on the MLW network. Well, Chris Jericho has his own podcast.
Yeah,
listen to
Chris Jericho.
I don't know if you've listened to the newer ones.
I have not.
But they have Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows on the newer one. And they do what's called Talkin' Shop, which is a piece that Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows used to do in Japan, and when they were working for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And they have them and AJ Styles, and they just start rambling and having all these little side conversations, and then they introduce voices and characters into the show. Well, I don't know if you've listened. Have you listened to the Ric Flair podcast?
Yes, I have.
Did you listen to the newest one with Shawn Michaels?
I didn't finish it. But I started it.
So they ask him. I can't remember if it's at the beginning. Maybe if you listen to it, you know at the beginning.
Yeah.
They ask him about the Talking Shop episode.
Yeah.
And
I don't remember.
Okay, so what happens? AJ Styles does a Ric Flair impression that they called the Nature Hoot. And It's not bad. I'm not gonna lie. It's funny. It's not like he's not trying to be him, but it's a good parody.
Yeah.
And one of the things that like they start making jokes about him and his money and stuff like that, and they asked Ric Flair about it, and they said, "What did you think about the club kind of making fun of you a little bit?" And he's like, "I know AJ. AJ's a great guy. You know, it's awesome. Like I got no problems with AJ. He's a good kid." And he's like, "Doc." He's like, "I just recently got to know Doc from being around and stuff, and he's a cool guy." And he's like, "But Carl Anderson, like taking shots at me like that. When I see Carl Anderson, I'll let him know." Like he did not like the fact that like Carl Anderson alluded to AJ doing the character like at all. It was interesting.
But that's Ric Flair. He's an old school cat.
Yeah.
You know, and if he goes up to Carl Anderson will probably give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah,
and
he's the Hall of Famer.
To be honest with you, like Ric Flair is at the point of his career where, you know, just let's enjoy the fact that he's still around. Yeah. You know, because a lot of legends have passed away recently.
Yeah.
And
I think they did the right thing by getting him off of TV with Charlotte.
Yeah.
I think it was the right call.
You know, it was cool to see him, but it wasn't necessary.
From a character standpoint, people wouldn't hate her because her dad's Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, they want him to woo. They want him to do his shtick of the crazy, wild shit that he does. Because if you look, this is what the Ric Flair that I wanted to see. I wanted to see the Ric Flair from Evolution that was Triple H's mentor. Yeah. That would throw his jacket on the ground and lose his ever-loving mind because he wanted the bad guy to win.
Yeah.
That's not what you got with this Ric Flair being at ringside for his daughter. You got the Ric Flair that was like, "I'm happy to be here, my daughter, yeah." Like, I'm out here.
It was, honestly, it looked more like like you said, it looked like he was just happy that he was on TV.
Yeah. You know, and,
that's funny.
Like, "Whoa, I'm here, woo."
Yeah,
and like he'd be telling his daughter to strut, baby, strut, come on.
Yeah.
You know, and she'd be like trying to walk to the ring. Yeah. But he'd be like, "Oh, come on, baby!" Oh, and like, he'd run circles around her. And people find
that shit hilarious, but she's supposed to be a character that's hated on television.
I think that's probably
it contrasts.
That has to be. I think that has to be the reason that they took him off.
Yeah.
Because I mean, what other logical reason?
That I don't know.
he cast a big shadow.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For the 16-time world champion, most world championships by one man.
He probably has more than that. It's just
that's what's world recognized. Titles. Yeah, exactly.
He was the champion in Kentucky wrestling.
Yeah, somewhere deep.
So, we have this Universal Championship now.
Yes.
Whatever you're gonna call it.
No, that's what it's called.
Okay, that's what it's called. Does this take away from the actual WWE Championship?
No. Name value, you're gonna get a lot of people that shit on this title, just based on the name. Like these, if you're a wrestling fan, you want to be recognized as a fan. You don't want to be called. The PG mind frame that the WWE has is where that WWE universe came from. It's just like you have like the Disney Channel and you have Disney Junior.
Yeah.
That's instead of calling you or I a fan, if you're a grown ass man, you don't want to be a part of the WWE universe. You're a wrestling fan. You grew up watching wrestling as a fan.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a part of the universe. That's a kid mind frame that the demographic that they're targeting. So you're going to get a lot of older, whether it's teenage to older groups that are going to fight this just on a name basis.
Yeah, because the UFC doesn't do that, right? They don't call their fans a universe or anything like that. No, not
at all.
Okay.
You know, but as far as devaluing the WWE Championship, no, it only makes it stronger.
Is it? Okay.
In my opinion, it only makes it stronger because you're going to go, oh, the Universal title is the Raw one, but that's the original. That's the WWE Championship.
That's the one you want.
Yeah.
And I just think it depends. I
mean, the build. See the other side of this is why it's so important that you have a guy like Finn Balor and a Seth Rollins who are going to bring their A game. That you look at that and go, well, these two guys are fighting for that belt. Maybe that belt is worthy.
Maybe it's got some kind of notoriety.
Yeah, that's why. And to have, you want to talk about people losing their fucking mind. If Finn Balor wins at SummerSlam, you're going to watch some crazy shit from the fans and their responses.
Now, how are they going to work these big pay-per-views now? Will there still be cross-matching?
Well, okay, that's what I was leading into. Is there still a lot of questions? Do you have 2 pay-per-views a month, one for each show? Or do you, what they used to do is they used to alternate. 1 month was a Raw pay-per-view, the next one was a SmackDown and so on until you got to the big 4. And then those were combined. They didn't fight with each other, but they would do the show together. Which that's still yet to be determined. You have 7 women on Raw, 6 women on SmackDown, but your champion's on Raw.
Yeah.
What are the women on SmackDown fighting for?
Yeah.
Cake.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we talked about on.
The
that was one of the questions.
The tag titles was the same thing.
Yeah.
Your tag team champions are on Raw. Well, you have a number of tag teams that are on SmackDown. What the hell are they fighting for?
Yeah.
And judging by the WWE bringing in this Universal Championship, generally it seems like they're going to do that all the way down.
They're going to kind of...
That they're going to have to figure out for SmackDown, they're going to call those titles something, the tag titles something different. You know, the WWE tag team titles will be considered to be recognized on Raw. They'll come up with a different name for SmackDown. The women's... See, this is where the shit gets sketchy with the women's title. Because there's not levels like there is in WWE with the men's. Like, you have the Intercontinental, the U.S. So, when you get to a heavyweight title, you're not saying that, oh, this is the men's heavyweight title. Where you're pigeonholing that there's only one. With the women, that's what that is. You're the women's champion. Well, what if you're not on that show? Are you not a woman champion? You just killed the Divas name at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So what do you have? SmackDown's women champion? I mean, there's still a lot of questions to be answered.
The WWE Women's Universal.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think about that. The Universal Women's Championship. Yeah. That's true.
Universal. Oh, God.
But then that contradicts because you have the Universal Heavyweight title on Raw, but the Women's Universal title's on SmackDown.
They'll probably call it something else. It's funny because, like you said, they killed the Divas term. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I was
all for it. Yeah,
I wasn't the biggest fan of the Divas term, but it would have worked in this case.
It makes sense here. Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I was all for killing that term, but now you kind of took the rationality.
And it has less of a sting too if you have a women's division and a Divas division, because then you could just be like, well, they're just two different divisions. Yeah, just way to refer them,
as division.
I mean,
just like an NFC, AFC.
But we all know that people can't handle anything nowadays.
Not wrestling fans.
Anybody.
Wrestling fans are too emotional about their product.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that for sure is going to be some questions.
Any other questions answered from our Friday? Because we had the tag team, we weren't sure. Mm-hmm. We had the women's, especially not sure.
Well, we talked about how the shows work roster-wise. That we were looking at SmackDown being the show that we felt like, hey, man, these are going to be the one that's wrestling primary. I tell you what, Raw took a good step in the right direction tonight.
So if you're giving Raw a grade for their first show by themselves, what are you grading them tonight?
I would say definitely B+, A-, right in there. There were some things that I felt, if you watched the Fatal 4-Way, Jericho and Roman Reigns missed a spot.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, Jericho fell on his own.
Oh, yeah, the Superman punch.
Yeah, he was supposed to eat a Superman punch, and Roman mistimed it, the way that it went down.
I almost think it might have been Jericho for the basic fact that Jericho just, let himself go back.
Well, and Roman was still coming. See that though, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but Roman was coming with it, and Jericho just was going back already. Yeah. Where he should have been waiting for that anticipation of the punch.
If you're Roman and you see him going, then you got to throw that punch. You can't wait on it. So I would say B+, A-. You got a big thing with Finn. You pop for him. You get the crowd to go crazy for him at the beginning. He's your guy that's going to Seth Rollins. That's definitely positive stuff. Like we said, the women's title match, huge upgrade. That's and we said the surprise factor of getting the title to change hands on Raw. You don't do it every time, but it's a good mix-up, and so that's definitely the positive. But I said, the New Day, I think that they could have had them do a little more, have a match with a team, and then try to kind of jump into it. Enzo and Big Cass, they were there. They didn't get to go through their whole shtick.
Yeah. I would say it was an A just because from start to finish, I was interested.
Yeah.
And that rarely happens with Raw now.
I think they did a good job of grabbing you early. You can't deny, as much as I'd like to sit here and nitpick and criticize, 3 hours is a long damn time to fill a show. And they got smart in the sense of, we only got to do this with these guys. We don't got to try and figure out, 50 guys to put in one show in 3 hours one night and 2 hours then. How do you solve that problem? You split them down the middle. Now we have time to focus on these guys. Now we have time.
And we saw the benefit of that tonight. Longer matches, more of a wrestling-oriented show. I heard the word wrestling on there a couple times, which has been kind of taboo. And I think they're going more for the combat sport feel.
A little
Feels
bit.
great.
Yeah.
And I wonder what SmackDown's going to be. I hope it's not more like the kid-friendly show.
Yeah.
I want them to both be on the same kind of level where it's competitive for us to want to watch both of them. Which one do you like better? Oh, I like SmackDown better. Oh, I like Raw better. Because the Raw and SmackDown, when it was all said and done, I was like, ooh, SmackDown has maybe the better. Yeah, but it's just because they have a lot of veterans, honestly. But Raw showed tonight that they're very strong as well.
They're more than capable to hang in there.
The young guy, the young cat, Finn Balor, closed the show out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Great. You start the show with him, you finish the show with him. That was a great step. overall, there's still some more questions though, like the Brock Lesnar situation is hanging over their head. It said that they don't believe that he's going to be fined. They're going to leave that up to the Nevada Athletic Commission and USADA. But, there's certain situations here where Paul Heyman, where does he fall in this? His contract is up with the WWE, but Brock Lesnar's not Brock Lesnar without Paul Heyman.
I heard they're renegotiating with him.
They're working on a new deal is what it is, yeah. But that deal's not done yet. They got a month to get it done. Or if not sooner, because I'm sure he's at least got to be on TV to sell this match with Randy.
Yeah, because Brock's not going to be there every week.
And especially with him in trouble, you want to keep him out of the spotlight as much as possible.
I don't know if you caught it yesterday, but Orton said...
He took a shot at Brock Lesnar during his promo at Battleground.
He said he didn't need enhancements.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they need Paul Heyman.
They do. They do need Paul Heyman. For sure. If you're going to keep Brock, you got to have Paul. So... that there's still a few questions to be answered. Hopefully we'll get some more answers tomorrow night.
Do you expect SmackDown to eclipse what you saw tonight?
Yes. As right now, yes. Because they have more to build off of. You're WWE champions on that show. So that right there, that builds that in. You already have an established guy that's a bad guy in The Miz with the Intercontinental title. Now you have an opportunity to make that title prestigious again with the next few feuds that title runs through it as long as he's the champion. And then, like we said, as far as the people that weren't necessarily huge names, but they're going to get opportunities to be bigger than what they've been as far as like mid-card guys that can work their way. Dolph Ziggler, Bray Wyatt. Who else am I missing?
AJ Styles.
John Cena. Those guys, you're going to have that's a handful of guys right there. And you only have 2 hours.
Yeah, I think the 2-hour thing is actually an advantage.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
So what time does SmackDown come on tomorrow?
5 o'clock. It's the same time. They both start at 5 o'clock now. Yeah. Hey, you have DVR. What are you worried about?
Yeah, well, it's really easy this week, but after this week, we'll see. When everybody gets back in rotation.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Everything goes back to rotation. Well, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. School starts again.
Yeah. Man, it'll be crazy around here again. So they didn't do anything to address the potential cross-matching tonight.
That will no longer happen.
So there's...
The idea is that they're going as far away from that as possible.
Really?
Because they want... Their selling point is fresh new matchups, and if you want to see this guy, like a Finn Balor or a Seth Rollins or a Roman Reigns or Enzo Big Cass, you're going to watch this show.
And I think what they saw with NXT is that they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
That they could keep a separate roster over here, and eventually when they bring somebody over, it's huge because you're not used to seeing this person wrestle that person anymore.
Yeah,
because that doesn't happen. So I think that's what they're going for with this.
And I think they've done a good job with the NXT stuff where there's enough exposure where you see that this guy can wrestle or this girl can have great matches. Mm-hmm. I want to see him wrestle this guy or that girl that you see on TV every week, like you said. And then once you know that they can go. Well, then it's in creative's hands to sell them as the character.
Yeah, it's not as hard for the audience to get behind. Like
there was a lot of people,
Big Cass.
there was them. They're one of them. Like we talked about Finn being in question. Some of these people were like, man, I don't know how they're gonna cross over to the main roster. Like if people are gonna receive them as well. Mm-hmm. Is Vince McMahon behind them? Because as far don't get me wrong, Vince McMahon oversees everything. It's a multi-billion-dollar company that's his. But Triple H runs the NXT program. It was his business proposal. The Performance Center was all his idea. All this stuff. He books it in old school territory way. Less is more. And he teaches that and preaches that. So when you get to the main roster, to some degree you're dealing with Triple H, but he doesn't have the final say. Vince McMahon does. And if Vince isn't behind you or doesn't think that the crowd's behind you, guess where you go? Back of the line and in the middle of the shuffle. But when you got somebody like Enzo and Big Cass, who their first night, holy shit, the crowd goes crazy. They're saying their catchphrases with them, and they've never seen them on the main roster. That goes a long way. Finn tonight, that goes a long way. But when you get guys like AJ and Finn, who are established names, and then you're bringing them over, if you have your hardcore, not your casual fan, but your hardcore fans, they'll follow. And with Finn, he already had the hardcore base from New Japan, but he built the casual fan in NXT. And now you have that following. He's a smaller guy, but it's going to be hard to deny.
The internet has just helped the notoriety of all these other guys.
I think the WWE has finally embraced these guys from other promotions to go, well, we didn't build you, but we can put you in NXT and mold you into our style, and we can make you work with what we do. If you have the skills, we'll give you the tools and make it work. So,
fair deal.
Yeah.
Fair deal.
So, like I said, overall grade, I got a B+, A-. Gio, what you got for tonight?
I would say an A. I loved it. It was very entertaining. It felt fresh, felt different, and that's what they were going for, and they achieved it.
Definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah. New sound with the commentary team, new athletes, the new kind of overall way that they've showed it, even like with the interviews. I know you weren't a big fan.
Yeah.
I thought that was still kind of a little bit more refreshing
than
not doing anything, because there's some cases where they wouldn't do anything and then you would have to go online to find some of the interviews too. So
agreed.
I liked it. It was a great show.
Without seeing SmackDown tomorrow, primarily, what do you think? Where do you think you're at, and where do you think you're at? You're a SmackDown or a Raw guy?
Oh, if I have to bullet to your head, or gun to your head, you got to pick one.
Even though we both know, all three of us know, you guys will both be watching Mondays and Tuesdays.
That's tough, man.
Did they do a good job of splitting up guys you want to see on both nights?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
For me, I'm gonna have to be a Raw guy because you got Finn. I'm a big avid fan of Finn. The Club. Seth Rollins' character I really like, and then tag team wise, I enjoy watching the Club. They're good guys, and as much as people are like the New Day, what, like, they're entertaining. And then you have women on Raw that can wrestle their asses off. So I would say I'm more of a Raw guy.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. And honestly, I don't want to be. I always agree with you, but yeah, I agree with you on that one because it's true with the New Day, Seth Rollins, all these cast of characters that they have right now, Brock Lesnar being on Raw. I honestly, I love SmackDown roster, but I don't see it being better than Raw. I like Dean Ambrose, but he's not like the most technical wrestler.
I like Dean. I love AJ.
Yeah,
AJ's a great guy
I just feel like,
but when you look at the show overall, character value is where it falls off.
Yeah.
Wrestling wise, SmackDown. If you're looking at it on paper, SmackDown's a show that you're gonna go. I'm a SmackDown guy because they can wrestle better.
Yeah.
But as far as character development and people that you look at and go, no, I want to watch him. He's fun to watch. Or that guy can really go. And I like the character they're doing. That's Raw.
And on top of that, you have Stephanie McMahon, being the commissioner. Then you have Mick Foley being the general manager. And then on the other side, you have Shane McMahon with Daniel Bryan. And Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, I don't feel like there's going to be a lot of like
contrast.
Yeah, exactly. And
conflict.
Exactly. Even Daniel Bryan, it was kind of cool to see him come back, but I didn't think he was the best choice.
But I think that's the idea, though. Is it like we've had this like almost staleness to an antagonist authority figure.
My hope is that because he's very sarcastic, he's very funny in that manner, and I want to see that in his character.
Real life.
I hope that when he burns somebody and makes them fight for a championship, like that he tells them in a funny, sarcastic way where it's just like, haha, he got him, you know? Because Daniel Bryan could easily just be extremely nice.
Yeah.
That dude's like...
But I think that's what they're going for with him and Shane is it's two people that get along. Yeah. And when you look at Foley and Stephanie McMahon, there's definitely this thought that at some point they're going to hit heads and it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I think they're trying to...
I think both general managers are temporary. I really don't think they're going to be there for a year. Really? I think it's going to be a couple months each,
I could see them doing the full year and then switching... The
I feel like Daniel Bryan is more liable to do it, but I feel with Mick Foley, WWE
he's not there long term.
He's always high and cold with them.
You're promoting your own show on the network. Exactly. He has his own show, Holy Foley, is coming out with his daughter, who I showed you the Instagram of his daughter. That business, I think that's more of, Mick Foley's a name that we know people will get behind, so we can sell him as a good guy. Hey, he's got a show on the network. We can promote the network. I mean, there's not other than that.
The thing is, Mick Foley's like always been the kind of person that when he like is not passionate about something or when something irks him or rubs him the wrong way, he'll be like, I'm
put it on his
blog. Screw this, I'm done with this. Because he's done that with WWE before, and where he's like had falling outs with them, and eventually they get cool again. So I just don't see how this is going to play out for a long-term thing. I think it's more for promotion of his show. I think it's going to happen for a couple months, and then they're going to find a long-term solution. Because on top of everything, the guy could barely walk.
Yeah.
He's like...
The damage to his body.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
The one guy that I would have liked to see take Foley's spot, Paul Heyman.
Yeah, that's honestly who I thought they were
going to contract, so he only has to be there on Mondays and pay-per-views. Yeah. He doesn't got to do anything
And
else.
him and Stephanie would be awesome on screen together, honestly. I could have saw Triple H being one of them, too.
That was my guess. My guess was, if Shane's going Daniel Bryan, which they leaked, then who's Stephanie's choice? Well, the obvious choice was Hunter. Yeah. You haven't seen him on TV since WrestleMania. Yeah. Now Shane's on another show. Hey.
Really? So we got SmackDown to watch tomorrow.
Yep.
I think we're caught up, right?
Yeah.
We're up to date on our WWE. That was the whole point of having Gio here. Make sure we're able to cover every aspect of it.
Yep.
I did a corny job of filling in on Friday. I was when I pulled up that Shawn Michaels promo. Christina walked up behind me and she goes, "What are you watching?" And he hear his music. That was actually my entrance music to my Tough Man fight at the Palace. Was the HBK song.
There you go.
So as soon as she heard it come on, she was like, "Oh my God, are you watching wrestling?" And I was like, "It's an old one." She goes,
"No, I'm watching my fight. I'm watching my fight. That's not what's going on here."
That's funny. She was like, "Are you watching it all? Justin's got you into that old stuff again." No, I was like, "No, it's just an old promo. I don't remember." Because I think I started watching it just after HBK left.
So the first time?
No. When I started watching it again, I stopped watching it in about like 94, I think.
Oh, okay, got you.
And Shawn Michaels was still with Marty Jannetty.
The Rockers.
They were still the Rockers, and then I stopped watching it for a few years, and then I got back into it right after The Rock got in.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, those are. Well, we talked about that whole bad boy image that they had and stuff like that. So it was just fun. My favorite. I don't know if you call it a promo. I guess you would call it a promo to watch. Is when Stone Cold is stalking D-Generation X throughout the show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
the segments.
Yeah.
We were actually in Fresno for a SmackDown when they were recording when D-Generation X thought they threw the Rock in the bus and the bus took off. We were actually in Fresno for that one.
Oh,
we ran back in. It was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty fun to watch. But all right, well, we're winding down now. We got you a little bit of sports. We got you a lot of wrestling. If you got wrestling comments, we got two experts here. And I said two, and I'm not one of them. So we got two experts willing to answer your questions. Shoot us a wrestling question, a wrestling comment. If you can fact check us, not that we care, but you can definitely do it. And see how it plays out when you ask your question. So this has been another episode. Manuel,
Justin,
and
Gio,
and we've been
totally unprofessional.